Hey everybody, what's going on? Today is April 7th, 2020. In this video, we're going to talk about the numerology of the Kennedy family. Overnight, we received news that the body of Maeve Kennedy Townsend McKean was discovered 4 days after a canoeing accident in the Chesapeake Bay area of Maryland claimed her life. Before we talk about this story and the numerology that surrounds it, we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into the numerology of the Kennedy family and the Kennedy curse. We're going to focus primarily on the deaths of 3 individuals, perhaps the most prominent deaths of this family, all of whom died at a very young age. First, we start with John F. Kennedy, the man who actually sat in the Oval Office as the 35th President of the United States. His brother, United States Senator from New York, Robert F. Kennedy, who died at the age of 42 about 5 years later. And then the son of John F. Kennedy, JFK Jr., who died in a plane crash off of Martha's Vineyard in the year 1999. When we talk about numerology, we talk about primarily the alignments between date numerologies and date durations, and then the language of Gematria, the practice and observation of letters and numbers. There are 4 base ciphers on my website, gematrinator.com. The first, most basic one, called English Ordinal, uses the alphabetic order, numbers at 1 through 26. The reduction method uses the rules of numerology. This is also called Pythagorean Gematria, where every number is a single digit. We also have the reverse methods, which are complementary. And of course, I teach Jewish or Latin Gematria in all of my videos as well, and we'll peek at some other ciphers throughout the course of this video. An ignorant criticism of Gematria is often that there are too many ciphers, but as you will notice, this focuses primarily in the alphabetic order and the Jewish number for large number ciphers, with these other methods essentially being complementary. And this post began as just a little bit about the plane crash of JFK Jr. And I just want to point out that the name John Fitzgerald Kennedy gives us an ordinal value of 233. And JFK Jr., who was born on November 25th, died on July 16th, which is exactly 233 days after his birthday. So let's talk about the Kennedy curse. Of course, the most prominent death from the Kennedy curse was the sitting president, JFK, in the year 63. Notice how Kennedy curse sums to 63 in both single reduction and reverse reduction. 63, both forwards and backwards. Now, in the year 63, prior to the assassination of JFK, on the date 6/3, there was the death of Pope John the 23rd. Now, in the alphabetic order, Kennedy curse sums to 144. JFK flew to Italy while he was president, landing at the airport on July 1st, just months before his death. The date July 1st fell exactly 144 days before his assassination. The number 144 is connected to the kill code. The number 44 equals 144. So does the date that's written 4/4, April 4th. JFK was the winner of the 44th presidential election. And what I bet most of you don't know is that he died exactly 44 years after a total solar eclipse, or I should say an annular solar eclipse. This is linked in my post, actually. I'll have to bring this up. But notice how this annular solar eclipse was on the date November 22nd in 1919, exactly 44 years to the day before the assassination of JFK. And notice how this eclipse began in the state of Texas, the same state in which JFK was assassinated. There's only one other number that sums to 144 in the alphabetic order, and that's 71. And again, think about how JFK flew to Italy to meet the Pope on July 1st, the date written 7/1, 144 days before he died. In the alphabetic order, Catholic sums to 71. JFK was the first Catholic president. He was the 35th president. Catholic equals 35. And he would end up dying at the age of 46. These numbers are familiar to RFK, his brother, whose initials sum to 35 and 46. RFK wound up dying 199 days after his birthday, which is the 46th prime number. And we'll talk more about this number when we get into the numerology of Maeve McKean and how it's related to the death of Saoirse Hill, who allegedly overdosed on drugs back in August of last year, another granddaughter of RFK. So let's talk about this ritual sacrifice code, which is extremely prevalent in the deaths of JFK and RFK. In Jewish Gematria, the initials JFK have a value of 616. This is the same as ritual sacrifice, 616. Now, a significant number of ritual human sacrifice is 33. Notice how both these phrases sum to 895 in Jewish Gematria. What I found interesting today is that if you sum the first 33 digits after pi, they sum to 154. Ritual sacrifice gives us a value of 154 in the alphabetic order. Now, JFK died on November 22nd, the date written 11/22. Of course, this sums to 33. The name Kennedy equals 33. This is the Americanized version. The Irish version was O. Kennedy, which is 33 in reverse. The word curse also gives us a gematria of 33. And this cursed family is from Massachusetts, one of just a handful of states to have gematria of 33 in reduction. JFK Jr. was, interestingly enough, born just a couple weeks after his father won the presidential election. Notice how his birthday has the same exact numerology as the date his dad was assassinated. And these events are strangely very connected. First of all, notice how JFK Jr. was born on the 330th day of a leap year. In English Sumerian Gematria, which is the alphabetic order times 6, a cipher that's very relevant, as 6 is the number of time, and some historians credit the Sumerians with discovering the formula for time. Anyway, JFK Jr. sums to 330 in that cipher. And what I found interesting is that in the plane crash that claimed his life, his wife was also killed. And Carolyn Bassett Kennedy was 33 years old. This means that she was born in the year 66. And 33 equals 66 in reduction gematria. Her name, for the record, sums to 90. 90 is just one of two numbers that sum to 33 in reduction. And then you may have noticed her name also sums to 333 in the reverse alphabetic order. Something that's worth mentioning also is this 261. I skipped over this earlier, But I wanted to point out that the Pope who died just before JFK visited Italy and met the new Pope, St. John the 23rd, was the 261st Pope in the history of the Catholic Church. And this is a very relevant number to the United States of America, which sums to 261. Also notice United States of America summing to 144. So this ritual, again, with Kennedy meeting the Pope after the death of the 261st Pope and then dying 144 days later. A little nod to the numerology of the USA. But back to the number 33. The 33rd prime number is 137. JFK was assassinated in his 1037th day in office. Furthermore, what I just realized is that this is also exactly 148 weeks. In Jewish ordinal Gematria, 33 equals 148. And in that same cipher, is it ritual sacrifice equals 148? That's right. JFK 616 dying exactly 148 weeks into his presidency. But it's not just the death of JFK Sr. that's related to the birth and death of JFK Jr. His uncle, Robert F. Kennedy, popularly known as RFK, also factors into this numeric ritual. The name Robert Francis Kennedy sums to 314 in the reverse order, and these are the first three digits of pi. Before I talk about this number, I actually want to focus on the ordinal Gematria. I said this is the most significant cipher. 226 is a number that's significantly connected to 33. Consider how the name Robert equals 33. The name Kennedy equals 33. We'll talk about how he died on the date 6/6. But anyway, when you write out 33, look at these ordinal and reverse values, 156 and 141. Both of these numbers have ordinal Gematria of 226. So it's a little Gematria riddle to get there, but nevertheless, very connected to the number 33. Now back to this 314. Sorry for jumping around on you guys. Trying to take my time on this. Again, we recognize these as the first three digits of pi, 3.14. But what's really interesting is that when you measure from the death of Robert F. Kennedy to the death of JFK Jr., you get 31 years and 40 days. Now, if you include the end date, you get 3141. Those are the first four digits of pi. So 141, the first three digits after the decimal. Consider how 33 equals 141. And the date on which JFK Jr. died has primary numerology of 141. Once again, 33 sums to 66 in reduction. And Robert Kennedy summing to 66, dying on the date June 6th in 68. His assassin was named Sirhan. And since Sirhan equals 33, Sirhan equals 66. But if you instead measure from not the death of JFK Jr., but instead his birth, to the death of JFK Sr., what I want to point out is that JFK was assassinated exactly 156 weeks after his son JFK Jr. was born. And not only does Robert Kennedy equal 156, 33 equals 156. Now the 156th prime number is 911, a number which no doubt everyone recognizes the significance of. Well, notice how ritual human sacrifice sums to 911 in satanic gematria. This being the method that sums to 666 when you write it out. So all the way from start to finish, the ritual sacrifice code coded into the deaths of these men, but of course there's more. When we're talking about 33 and its ordinal value of 156 and reduction value of 66, remember the book of Revelation, the 66th book of the Bible, reveals the number of the beast to be 666. Notice how this and 666 both equal 156. 666 is the number of the beast. Notice how this has matching gematria with John Fitzgerald Kennedy, 724. Now, JFK Jr. died in the year 1999. In this year, there's an upside-down 666. Also think about how his final birthday was in 1998. And 1998 is 666 times 3. In the reverse Sumerian cipher, the reverse alphabetic order times 6, the name Kennedy equals 666. And I got a pretty big kick out of the quote that was given by the NTSB. They said that the reason his plane crashed was the pilot's failure to maintain control of the airplane during a descent over water at night, which was a result of spatial disorientation. Notice how this reason sums to 666 in our reverse reduction method. The 540 in reduction is a nod to the gematria of JFK. But when we write out 666 using the alphabetic order, we find it's 275. Well, if you measure from the birth of JFK Jr. to the death of RFK, you get exactly 2,750 days. Also, JFK Jr.'s death falling 238 days after RFK's birthday. And look at 666 in Jewish gematria. You got that 238. Remember Kobe Bryant scoring 81 points in his 666th game? His birthday is 23/8. Of course, that's several videos on its own. Anyway. So we talked about how Kennedy curse equals 63, just like the year JFK died. Well, John Kennedy Jr. also summing to 63 in both reduction methods. And I actually got a kick out of the gematria of Irish. The word Irish has gematria that ties into this 666 code very well. First of all, consider how 666th is the 36th triangular number. So a number that's made up of 3 sixes, you add every number 1 through 36, sums to 666. Notice the 666th triangular number, 222,111. Of course, JFK dying on 11/22. But the number 63 is also tied to this code. Now think if you multiply 6 times 6 times 6. You get a product of 216. Irish equals 216 in English gematria. The number 2016, which in numerology is the same as 216, which is very important as we'll see coming up. Notice how 2016 is the 63rd triangular number, which is the inverse of 36. So the word Irish works out very well for the Kennedy family. It's all scripted so neatly. On the date that JFK Jr. died, he was exactly 2,016 weeks old. Notice how the name Robert F. Kennedy equals 216 and 162. Now we'll start talking about the deaths that have occurred a little bit more recently. Last year, we lost the daughter of RFK, or the granddaughter of RFK, Saoirse Hill, on August 1st. And notice how her death fell 20 years and 16 days after JFK Jr.'s. Now, the 216th prime number is 1321. And measuring from the death of JFK to the death of JFK Jr., notice how it's a span of 13,021 days. Also, the 132 sequence without the end date definitely stands out. Catholic Church equals 132 in the alphabetic order. Also worth pointing out, JFK Jr. died 35 years after his dad, who was the 35th president, and then his uncle RFK sums to 35. JFK Jr. dying a span of 237 days after the anniversary of the death of his father. And that number stuck out to me because from JFK's death to RFK's death, you get exactly 237 weeks with the end date. So next we're going to talk about how these deaths tie into these recent deaths of Saoirse Hill and now Maeve Kennedy Townsend. RFK died at the age of 42. JFK Jr. dead on a date with 42 numerology. And now on the date April 2nd, which is written 4/2, we get the death of Maeve McKean. And the 42nd prime number is 181. She died exactly 1,081 weeks after JFK Jr. A couple weeks ago, I made a post about Sean Payton and also the death of Kenny Rogers. Kind of two weird things to mix in the same video, I know, but it all had to do with coronavirus. And what I mentioned in that video is that Kenny Rogers was featured on an episode of Seinfeld. Now, he himself wasn't in that episode, but the show was about his restaurant chain. And in that post, I explored how the Seinfeld episode was related to the death of Kenny Rogers. Now, Seinfeld was my favorite show growing up, so I recall JFK Jr. also being featured in an episode of Seinfeld. You may remember that episode. It was called The Contest, one of the most famous Seinfeld episodes. And I got really tripped out when I looked at the numerology of that episode. Notice how The Contest has Gematria of 141 and 501. Well, the date that JFK Jr. died had numerology of 141 and 51. Not only that, but The Contest was the 51st episode of the series. The Contest 501, JFK Jr. dying on a date with 51 numerology. And look at this, Season 4, Episode 11. So the digits 411, the same digits that are in The Contest and the numerology of JFK Jr.'s death. The episode aired 347 weeks before his death, and 3 times 47 are the factors of 141. It might be a stretch. Either way, that date numerology really popped. All right, ladies and gents, I used to say ladies and germs, but now that the coronavirus is such a big deal, I don't want to disrespect anybody. A couple of funny things about coronavirus, actually. I noticed in Trump's speech back on April 3rd, he was talking about the shutdown. And if you actually look on whitehouse.gov and look at the actual quote that Trump said, he said this was artificially induced. They said, close it down. You got to close it down. So we closed it down and we're healing. And this is a little bit of truth in plain sight that the government likes to do. And maybe Trump's doing this on purpose, but think about this. Why would he say it's artificially induced? Of course, this whole pandemic is a plandemic, staged from the get-go. Whether or not there's a real virus, I feel like there is. What it is a matter of debate, whether it's engineered, whether it's something that's really contagious, whatever. But the same government that's been scripting these sacrifice rituals for decades, as we're exploring with the Kennedys, same thing going on here in 2020 as they're attempting to collapse our current version of society. And I like how ABC News also quoted the president saying this was artificially induced. The president added, without offering an explanation of what he meant. And that's all they say on it. But, they pointed it out. Like, yeah, this whole thing is extremely artificially induced. And it's a shame if some people are getting really sick, but the response has been far, far worse than the illness. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. This is about the Kennedys. So we're going to get back into the numerology and do a little bit of a dive into the death of Maeve Kennedy Townsend McKean, quite the mouthful, and why she died in a canoeing accident. We'll see how the gematria of canoeing accident aligns freakishly well with the rest of this story. Now, we didn't talk much about it earlier, but the deaths of all these men have to do with the numerology of the moon, lunar eclipses, and perhaps tying all their deaths to lunar eclipses is a matter for another video. We can do that, but what's important to understand is that this ritual that's played out over the past week with the death of Maeve McKean is 100% related to the moon and the most recent and next total lunar eclipses. Now again, this news was published overnight, and tonight, April 7th, is the brightest supermoon of the year. They're calling it a pink supermoon. And if you go outside in a little bit, you'll see it. Bright, largest one of the year. Now, this is significant because last year, another granddaughter of RFK passed away. That was Saoirse Kennedy Hill, or Saoirse Roizen Hill. And in this post, I talked about how her death fell within 24 hours of the most recent black moon. It was actually the first black moon in over 3 years. And the black moon lines up perfectly with the gematria of Saoirse Hill and the numerology of her death. And now we get the death of another granddaughter of RFK, and it's the day before the largest supermoon of the year. So Maeve McKean was born on November 1st of 1979, and Saoirse Hill, who passed away last year, was born on May 22nd of 1997. Notice how these two women are separated in birth by 210 months and 21 days. This is very significant. The word moon sums to 210 and 21 in gematria, numbers found directly in the gaps between their birthdays. And this is pretty interesting because when Saoirse Hill died last year, it was exactly a span of 51 years and 57 days since the death of her grandfather, RFK. And look at the gematria of moon in the ordinal ciphers, 51 and 57. On this channel, I often talk about the moon's metonic cycle. This is a period of almost exactly 19 years that lines up with the solar calendar. Now, metonic cycle equals 668. Well, first of all, it equals 127 and 55, which is the gematria of Saoirse Hill. Her full name, in fact, 127. But in Jewish gematria, metonic cycle equals 668. And think about the date that RFK died, 6668, right? Now, in this article, they mentioned the mother of Maeve McKean, who is Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. Notice how she's 68 years old, like how RFK died in the year 68. 68, the inversion of 86, the term to off somebody. Coffins, 6 feet deep, 8 feet long. Well, Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, like I said, she's currently 68, and the number 68 shows up a couple times in her name gematria as well. And now her daughter, Maeve, is dead from canoeing. Canoeing equals 68. So earlier on, we mentioned how the Kennedy curse equals 63, and it began in the year 63 with the death of JFK. So we mentioned how this is all related to the moon. Now, what if we look at the most recent total lunar eclipses? Pop into my bookmarks here. Notice how the last total lunar eclipse was on January 21st of 2019. Measuring from that date to the date that the body of Maeve McKean was found is exactly 63 weeks. The 630 is also relevant. Notice how the word ritual equals 630. In our ordinal methods, ritual equals 81 and 81 in reverse. Notice how lunar eclipse also summing to 81, 810 in Sumerian. And in reduction, it sums to 63. So ritual and lunar eclipse, different methods, same gematria. Now, Saoirse Kennedy Hill died on the date 8/1, or August 1st of last year. And now her cousin, Maeve McKean, has died 8 months and 1 day later. Again, tying back into the gematria of ritual 81. Now, the 81st prime number is 419. If we instead measure to the next total lunar eclipse, which falls on May 26th of 2021, notice how Maeve McKean died 419 days before that total lunar eclipse. Now, when we're looking at the number 81, we're also talking about the number 99. Of course, 9 times 9 is 81. A quick peek at the magic square of the moon reveals a 9 by 9 square. Magic square of the moon equals 99 in both reduction methods. The moon equals 99. Maeve McKean's full name sums to 99. She died in a canoe, 99. This is the gematria of 1399, 13 lunar phases a year. Her grandfather, RFK, by the way, dying on a date with primary numerology of 99. And the next section is going to be really solid. We're going to see how the deaths of the two RFK granddaughters, Saoirse Hill and Maeve McKean, were scripted entirely by these four numbers found in the gematria of RFK. We start with the alphabetic order, where RFK equals 35. Saoirse Hill was born on a date with numerology of 35, 5221997, 35. Her cousin Maeve McKean was born on the 305th day of the year. And now she's dead after a canoeing accident, which equals 305 in the reverse alphabetic order. Now, if you measure from the death of Saoirse Hill to the death of her cousin, Maeve McKean, it's exactly 35 weeks. And remember how Saoirse Hill died? They told us it was an overdose. OD equals 35. McKean's body was found on April 6th. Notice how this is 320 days after Saoirse Hill's birthday. Canoeing accident equals 320 in Jewish gematria. Next, we'll look at the reverse value of RFK, which is 46. His granddaughter, Maeve McKean, died on a date with primary numerology of 46. Her first name is Maeve, which equals 46 in ordinal. In English gematria, canoeing accident equals 460. Her body was then found 4 days later on April 6th, the date written 4/6. 46, the reduction value of sacrifice. In Hebrew, kill and murder, 46. So, Maeve McKean died 153 days after her birthday. Saoirse Hill died 153 days before New Year's. 153 is the 17th triangular number. This is a kill number. Kill equals 17. Notice how RFK also equals 17 in reduction. Now, Maeve McKean's final birthday before her cousin Saoirse Hill was born was her 17th. Notice how that date had numerology of 127. And then a few months later, Saoirse Hill was born, 127. Saoirse Kennedy Roisenhill, 127. And now Maeve McKean is dead in a canoeing accident, which equals 127. Remember this number tying into the Metonic cycle code. Their grandfather dead on 66 and 68. Finally, RFK equals 19 in reverse reduction. His full name, summing to 109 with the S exception. 19 is the Hebrew reduction value of kill. It also sums to 244, like how 19 equals 244. And then Saoirse Hill died in the year 19 on a date with 19 numerology. I think I saw the name Maeve also equals 19. And it's just so interesting that Saoirse Hill died in the year 2019 because her cousin, Maeve McKean, died at the age of exactly 2,109 weeks old. Maeve McKean's full name with her maiden name sums to 330 in ordinal. Remember Robert Kennedy, also Townsend equals 33. One thing I also noticed is that when Saoirse Hill died last year, it was 15 weeks and 6 days before her grandfather's birthday, and Robert Kennedy equals 156. He would have turned 94 years old. Saoirse Roizen Hill equals 94 in Gematria. 94 is also the value you get when you add her name to Maeve McKean. 94, 131. These are the same numbers as ritual human sacrifice. 94 and 131. Also notice how their names equal 220. This little ritual here is completed in the year 2020, as we're all locked indoors for the coronavirus pandemic. 220, 94. And there's actually more connections here. I want to point out how the word canoe has the same gematria in the base 4 ciphers as death. Saoirse Hill was born in the year 97. Both death and canoe equals 97. Her body was found on the 97th day of the year. Saoirse Hill's full name equals 143. That's her primary birth numerology. 143 is the ordinal value of the number 93. And why do I point that out? Well, Maeve McKean, her cousin, equals 93, and her death fell on the 93rd day of a leap year. In reverse, 93 equals 154. Maeve McKean died a span of 154 days after her birthday, and 1 year and 54 days before the next total lunar eclipse. Their grandfather, Robert Francis Kennedy, has this 154 gematria in English. He died at the age of 15,540 days old, I believe. Yeah, there you go. 154, also the single reduction value of Saoirse Hill's full name. 154, part of that ritual sacrifice code. This is also important. What I should have put in the post is that the Society of Jesus, which is the Masonic order within the Catholic Church, remember JFK, the first Catholic president, the Society of Jesus was founded in the year 1540, which again, part of that ritual sacrifice code, which JFK ties perfectly into. Also, ritual sacrifice 73 in reduction, that's the same as canoeing accident. Saoirse Hill, sacrifice, all 73. And finally, to cap this video off, my voice is almost getting sore from talking about all this dang numerology, but I want to again compare some numerology between Saoirse Hill and her cousin Maeve McKean. Now, last year, when we lost Saoirse Hill, notice how old Maeve McKean was. 39 years and 9 months old. 399 is the gematria of murder. Now, that could be coincidental, but this is also 477 months. The phrase ritual sacrifice equals 477 using prime numbers. So I feel like there's a level of significance there. Maeve McKean was born in the year 79. The word murder equals 79 in English gematria. Now 79 is the 22nd prime number. Here we are in the year 2020. Saoirse Hill was born on the 22nd day of the month. She died at the age of 22. Her birthday even falls 202 days after that of Maeve McKean, who died in the year 2020. Notice how Saoirse Hill and Maeve McKean, this is 22 letters, and it sums to 220 in the alphabetic order. In Jewish ordinal, ritual human sacrifice yields a 202. This should be a fun one for someone. Why are they wearing the Incredibles gear? They dress their family up as the Incredibles. There's probably a numeric riddle there. A nice little Gematria riddle, if you will. So for anyone looking for a homework project tonight, which I know you all are, feel free to give that one a ride. All right, guys, I think that's going to cut it for this video. Thanks to everybody who chimed in on the live stream. Sorry I couldn't really check it out. I had a lot to get through today. So thanks for understanding. If you want to jump in on the discussion, please feel free to join in on the Discord, which is linked along the top miscellaneous bar of my website. You can also see the link on your screen right now. I'm behind on emails again. I will try catching up on those soon. Been a little distant from you guys lately, but I'll catch up. And then for those of you asking about the PayPal link, that's been fixed down in the description below. It's also showing on your screen. So for anyone who feels like donating, I don't really make money off of this research. All the money donated virtually up to this point has gone to the website, more or less. And maybe a few extra bucks, I think I make like a cent an hour doing this. So it's all good, though. No pressure. That's going to do it once again for this video. Thanks to everybody out there. And stay positive, stay strong as we try to survive through this maddened world as of late. All right, guys. Peace, love, God bless, and talk to you next time. See ya!